Hello, everybody. Welcome to this first live Tuesday training organized by the community team. So, joining me, my name is Hari Shankar, and joining me are Courtney Robertson, Hawa Bashir, and Erika Wallis. So, welcome. Today, we have, before we start, I just want to share something very quick about what we are doing today. So, if you visit the community team blog, every Tuesday we have a post up called Tuesday Trainings. So Tuesday Trainings is an initiative from the community team to help community members. And every Tuesday, as I mentioned earlier, we publish a different topic uh, on the WordPress community blog to help organizers. So we've covered a lot of topics, and the idea behind these sessions is to help organizers be more effective in their events, because these trainings are aimed at community organizers, which are like Meetup organizers, WordCamp organizers, etc. So we've tried to change that a little bit over the past few weeks. One thing we've been trying is that we are community deputies that work on the community team, and we get a lot of questions from community members on different topics. And what we try to do is we try to bring up these questions and we try to find answers to these questions. And so we've covered several of these questions so far, and today we are going to cover, I guess, one of the most popular questions that we've gotten, which is how can Learn WordPress help meetup groups? So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And before we kick off, I just want to do a quick round of introductions, and I'd like to start myself. So my name is Hari Shankar. I am a deputy with the WordPress community team, and I live in Kochi, India. So who wants to go next? Courtney, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Courtney Robertson. I've been with the training teams off and on since 2014, and I teach WordPress specifically in the Code Differently Bootcamp located in Delaware, USA. I am in South Central Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. So Erika, do you want to quickly introduce yourself next?
Sure. I'm Erika. I live in the New York area. I'm a sponsored contributor to the WordPress project, sponsored by Automatic, and you can probably find me most in the Polyglots training and community channels.
Awesome. So great to have you with us today, Erika. So Hawa, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Hawa Bashir. I'm a project manager by trade, and I contribute on the training team. So I I can't remember what it is now. Yes, I'm the co-team rep with Courtney.
That's great. Awesome. So we have an amazing set of folks to discuss Learn WordPress today, and all of these people are they do a lot of great work on Learn WordPress. So I want to start with Hawa. So my question to you, Hawa, is: so we've spoken a lot about Learn WordPress. So what exactly is Learn.WordPress? And a quick follow-up question to that is: how does a platform like Learn WordPress benefit the WordPress community as a whole?
Okay. So for me, I think Learn.WordPress is a way in which the community can come together, and it can come together in a number of different ways. So you have your educators who can come in and grab a lesson plan, and they can use that at meetups, or they could use that at any community run groups, just to sort of teach people how to use WordPress. And then you've got workshops, which, you can come in as a learner, let's say, and just come in and have a look at a workshop. And those workshops come with discussion groups, so you can gather together and have a discussion about it. So I think it's a great way to learn about WordPress, but it's also a great way to contribute because, like I said, my background is project management. I'm not an educator, but I love WordPress and I like using WordPress. So I can come in and I can use it, or I can just contribute even to a lesson plan, surprisingly enough. So yes.
That's great. So just to summarize what you said, Learn WordPress is a collective of lesson plans, workshops, quizzes, courses, and discussion groups. And I guess the idea is that people can use it to learn about WordPress, right?
Yeah. So
Great.
yeah, you can use it to learn, and you can also use it to, so that's for anyone who's learning, but then also if you're an educator or just somebody who wants to take it to one of your meetup groups and show your meetup group how to use, I don't know, block editor or something like that, then you can use that to present. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So thank you for that amazing answer, Hawa. I have a question for you, Courtney, next. So I know that you're one of the veteran members of the training team, as you mentioned in your introduction. Let's go back to some history. So can you share the story of how Learn WordPress was born and where it is at and where it's going?
Sure. So secondhand knowledge on this one. WordCamp US. Well, it would have been San Francisco at that point, not even US, in 2013. I believe that the initial kickoff involved Tracy Levesque from Yikes Inc. She's a fantastic person to know in the community. Courtney O'Callahan, who has done some work with the Smithsonian, and Jen Milo. And out of that came the training team. There was a need for sure at the time with meetups that were struggling with what topic should we present? How can we get somebody to present that topic? And what is the scope of what I should include? How do I know if I've covered the topic properly or thoroughly enough? And so out of that came lesson plans to help folks at meetups get things rolling in their communities as well. And learn.wordpress.org has been the destination or the vision for where those lesson plans would live. It's grown, obviously, over that time. We've had a lot of contributors come throughout the years. Former team reps such as Julie Kuhl, Beth Soderberg, Chetan, Jesse Owens have all participated in helping guide where the training team has gone and what we've created. I'm really excited to partner in with the workshops and see where learn.wordpress.org is going.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that bit of history. I mean, I didn't know about the history that dates back to WordCamp San Francisco. So thank you for that context.
Sure.
You've spoken about all that's happened in the past. So where do you think Learn WordPress is headed? What's happening right now? I mean, you briefly touched upon workshops and all what's happening now. So what's happening with Learn WordPress right now? What is there? What happened now, and where is it going? Like, to what direction is it going? Can you share a bit about that?
Sure. So at this time, we have lesson plans and workshops. Those workshops are on-demand videos with a real-time discussion group option that would follow that. You've touched a bit on courses. And so I think as far as where learn.wordpress.org is going, seeing sequential order to what material we have there, organizing it in a way that goes from start to finish through areas like developing a theme, maybe developing a block-based theme. These would be fantastic areas to watch for in the hopefully not too distant future.
Nice.
Also, as far as the lesson plans area goes, the training team, now that we have the materials on Learn, is in it's a new opportunity for us to get our materials there pretty quickly. And so that has made it more efficient and faster in the workflow of the team. And we've been creating lesson plans around using blocks because we needed those. This month in particular, we're working on a series of lesson plans that will sort of help feed the team itself. Documenting all of these things is a good bit of work, and the docs team has done a fantastic job with their new style guide. What we're focusing in on is the quality of screenshots, how to take them in a way that is really beneficial for others, what our filler content should look like. So we have the theme unit test data, but what other types of things do we need to factor? That's just for this month. But I would envision that over the next few months, we will be picking a topic as a team and focusing the materials that we make in our lesson plans on that. Those lesson plans may continue on into video workshops, already having those plans roughed out for those that would come along and create the videos for those as well.
Wow. All that sounds exciting. And I have a follow-up question to you on that, which is related to meetup groups, but I'll get there. So I want to go to you next, Erika. So we touched a bit upon discussion groups. I think discussion groups are a great way for meetup groups to benefit from Learn WordPress. So before we get to that, can you elaborate a bit on what these discussion groups are? Like, how do they work? How do you organize a discussion group? And what is the format like? Can you speak a bit about that, please?
Sure, yeah. So for the workshops that are on Learn WordPress, which are essentially video workshops, so where someone's recorded about a particular topic, they range in how long they are, what the topics are. Someone can then go and organize a discussion group. There's a meetup group called, I think the name is Learn WordPress Discussions. And through that, we organize discussion groups related to some of those video workshops. And there we have folks who either have stumbled across the content through meetup.com, and that's their introduction to learn.wordpress.org, or it's folks who have gone to learn WordPress first, and then they're looking for a discussion group to kind of talk through and synthesize what they've learned through that video. And the discussion groups are generally about 1 hour long, and I think it kind of depends on who's leading it. I think we all have a little bit of a different style, or everyone who's leading those has a little bit of a different style. There's also been some experimentation with what the format looks like. Some folks have tried a watch party. So for videos that are a little bit shorter, the group will meet and watch the video together and then follow up with questions, which I think is a really nice way to engage people and have people get that synchronous learning experience. And then others more will just share the video as a resource and then may bring some kind of comprehension questions to the group to kickstart a discussion. The one thing that I really like about discussion groups is it's an opportunity for people to engage with the material as they're learning. They might have related questions that come up, as would happen for anyone, I think, learning a new topic. And it's an opportunity also for people attending to ask each other and have a discussion and learn from each other as well, which I think it's a great addition to what we have on Learn WordPress, since it gives the opportunity to chat with other people and introduce those expertise that may come from other people who are attending the discussion groups but weren't the workshop presenter.
I think that was a very great summary. So just to make sure that I understood it right, so discussion groups are a place where you can discuss with other people that have watched this workshop and have a collaborative learning experience. And there's no specific format, but you can have it in different formats, such as a watch party, or you can ask folks to watch the workshop and then join together to have a discussion. So the idea is that you clear doubts that you have on the workshop and make sure that you have a better understanding of it, right? Did I get that right?
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. So now that we're speaking of discussion groups, I have a very quick follow-up question. And it's again to you, Erica. And the question is, so we mentioned about discussion groups, and we mentioned that discussion groups typically happen in a central place, which is like a meetup group, as a dedicated Learn WordPress meetup group. Now, we have several meetup groups in the WordPress chapter, and I think around 750 plus. And one of the issues that most meetups face is that they have difficulty finding speakers, which is something that we've heard time and again. So I think this could be a good opportunity for meetups to organize discussion groups. So I want to ask you this, how basically there's two parts to the question. One, how can a meetup group organize a discussion group based on a Learn WordPress workshop? And two, what would be the best or the most effective way to do that?
Yeah, I think in theory, there's very few barriers to doing that. If the workshop's there, you can take that workshop and set up a discussion group or set up an event through your local meetup. I think it's a great opportunity to bring people together. It's a relatively low lift in that the material's already there. It's just an opportunity for you in your local community to then either bring folks together to watch that, or again, similar format, share the link ahead of time and then have folks bring questions to discussion. And the beauty there is then you're taking this material that's in a more central place, but you can bring it to your local community members, and they again can benefit from each other's expertise, from each other's questions. I think it's always important to remember that when you're learning, asking questions and answering other people's questions too is a really great way to learn. Asking a question is a form of teaching too in its own way. So for meetup organizers, what I would suggest is if you want to try something different, or if maybe you're looking for some new type of content, or you don't have a lot of folks volunteering to speak right now, going to Learn WordPress can be a great resource to look at the video workshops that are there, also the lesson plans that are there, which can be another great resource for developing some material to use with your meetup group, and just use that as the foundation for your meetup event. Having folks look at the material, present the material, whatever it may be, and then share that in a discussion.
That's great.
That's it.
Yeah. I think you explained that very well. Thank you so much for sharing that, Erica. So my next question is to you, Courtney, and I'm sort of drawing upon what Erica said. So Erica specifically mentioned that there are several ways you can use, and the thing that I like the most is about how you learn things better when you discuss something that you learn. So Courtney, I know that you've also mentioned in your intro that you are an experienced WordPress educator, and I know that you've taught several workshops, and you're actually doing it right now at this time. So based on your experience as an educator, uh, what do you think would be the best way to organize a discussion group, or what format would you work? Can you offer some tips based on your experiences for meetup organizers who want to organize discussion groups?
Sure. So I would look at first, I would want to get a gauge of the participants if I possibly could. And I recognize that might not be possible for especially newer meetup chapters to figure out if those attending are primarily users or builders, site assemblers where they are calling in all the themes and plugins, or if that is more of a developer, to know my audience first. Secondly, if I think that that audience is really interested in a topic, maybe send out the link for the video ahead of time and or show it at the beginning. So in where I teach, we use what's called a flipped classroom model. So my students have learned, we're in a developer bootcamp, and they have learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP. They're currently in the middle of PHP and pulling it all together with WordPress right now, which is exciting. We're knee deep in building a theme this week. We pulled underscores and we're off to the races, and we're exploring what the block-based themes are going to do kind of simultaneously. So they're developers, or they are in the process of being developers. And knowing your audience, for that matter, is really important. We have video courses that they take the night before, and then they come in to our class time together with starting with the quiz to sort of gauge, did you grasp the material? And I see those quiz results right away. We have those quizzes. I've used the same questions that we have on Learn, whether in the lesson plans or the quizzes attached to the video workshops. So they take those quizzes. First thing, I see the results. Then we lead into a little bit of open discussion on what did we learn. And then after that, we start into some actual activities. So where we can reinforce what the topic was by doing the thing, that's what we need to work on. And that allows them time to troubleshoot and work through this. And having an instructor present, even though they're getting the video delivery ahead of time, having that real-time discussion with each other opens the doors for them to assist each other, and also for me to jump in when I need to, if something it gets really confusing, or for me to supplement it with anything that might be really topically current. So of course, as we're in the middle of the life cycle of the rollout for Block Editor and Gutenberg, there's a lot changing in WordPress. And so the material needs sometimes to be supplemented that we're using, just to give a lay of the land and what's happening right now, maybe what just changed with WordPress 5.7 shipping this week. We started looking at that on Monday as we came into class. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, I would say, but don't be intimidated. Think if somebody can receive the training up front, assess how did that training go with some questions, maybe give some feedback about the delivery of the training even, and then do some activities together and discuss it, because that's going to be where you find, I think, the biggest value out of that is implement.
Awesome. So thank you so much for explaining your workflow while organizing a class. I think that would be very beneficial to all the meetup organizers watching it. And I really like how you plan all these workshops and how you deliver it. So I have a quick follow-up question on that for you, Courtney. Okay, so when it comes to Learn WordPress discussions, the discussion leader is more of a facilitator, right? So what they do is they watch this isn't the case where, let's say, I'm a discussion group leader and I'm doing a discussion group for a workshop that I've not present. So I've just seen the workshop. So in that case, what should the meetup organizer do in order to be more prepared? I mean, obviously they should watch the workshop, but how can they make it more effective? Like, how can they engage a discussion? And especially, so what I've seen in my personal experience is that people tend to be silent. So what would be the best way to engage them? And by the way, this is an open question. So Courtney, you can maybe go first, and Erica and Hawa, maybe if you want to add something, that would also be great.
I think drawing from, take the quiz yourself. If you're going to be a facilitator, go through the quiz, be familiar, maybe right before having that time, review those quiz questions, and then ask people how, if they're willing to share, Ask folks, did any of the questions stump you? Here was my experience. Make it relatable from the beginning. Here was the experience I had when I took the quiz. Maybe I struggled to grasp this one piece. Here's what made the difference for me. Or here's how I implemented whatever the topic happened to have been. And then perhaps a quick demonstration that reinforces the video. I mean, really quick, because time is precious for us. So very brief reinforcement of whatever happened in the video with guided questions for discussion. Come in expecting people to need a little bit of encouragement to share, especially if it's folks that are, pandemic living. We're all meeting through webcam technology these days in many platforms. And so if people are feeling like I'm just tired of that or I'm awkward, how do I engage? Having some guided questions that get the crowd moving might be really helpful too.
Right. So just to make sure that I'm understanding this right. So when you talk about guided questions, maybe, ask some of the questions in the workshop, or maybe some questions that you had on your own as open questions to the group to see if they have any suggestions. That's what you are referring to, right?
Yes.
Great. So any thoughts, Erica and Howard?
I was just thinking, I'd with my PM head on, case studies are a good one that I like, but real life case studies. So I think bringing it, which goes back to what Courtney was saying, if you know who your audience is, then you can sort of bring that to the discussion group. So something that they can actually relate to, and that they may do either on a day-to-day basis or something that they understand and why they would be able to use that particular thing that you're teaching them or discussing in real life or in a situation that they would come up with. So I think, that's the additional one for me.
So just to make sure that I'm understanding this right. So how when you talk about case studies, is it like, so let's say I'm doing a workshop on custom CSS. So when I talk about case studies, would I essentially talk about a project that I did where I used some CSS and I ran into this issue and I solved using this method? Are you talking about that, or?
Yeah, I'm
something
talking
like that,
about that. And if you don't even have one that you can reference, so you may have not done something, you might be able to come up with, in this situation, this is where you might want to use this, but something that they can actually relate to. So something real life, like a client might come up to you and say, I hate those colors and I want to change that. This is where you can go in and you can do X, Y, and Z. So I think, those sorts of things.
Yeah, I just had an idea based on what you said. I think it might be a good idea to ask. So in a discussion, we can maybe ask people to tell their stories. Like, did you face? Is it something that you? So I think that sort of personal connection might be helpful. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. So Erica, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think you actually kind of touched on it with your last comment a little bit. One thing that came to mind for me is just, like Courtney said, I think a lot of people right now, Zoom fatigue is real. So, and especially with our discussion groups, I think it's a little bit different for meetup groups where you have a set community and you see more regular people. I think with discussion groups where a lot of times it's like, some folks are repeat attendees, but it might just be you watched a workshop, you want to go to this discussion group, and that's it. That's the only one you'll attend. So you don't really have that connection necessarily with the group. And one thing that I've liked to do is kind of almost tying it into case studies, when just that personal connection is asking folks a little bit what drew them to the workshop, but also what they're working on. And I've found that can be a really nice way to tie that into a direct experience, so that the questions feel a little bit more personal or a little bit more tied into what's happening in your day-to-day life. And I've also just enjoyed hearing from other people what they're working on as a way to build that connection.
Nice. I like that last point that you mentioned about listening to those people and making that connection. I think that really helps foster a good connection that you have with the group, and makes the discussion group lively, I believe. So just to summarize what you all shared, so if a meetup organizer wants to organize a discussion group, I believe the step is to first watch any workshop in learn.wordpress.org and see which one they like, and then just organize a meetup on that based on their local meetup group. And it would make sense for them to watch the workshop first and take the quiz questions as Courtney suggested, and then make a plan. I guess it would make sense to make a plan to keep it in your mind about what you want to do, what you want to discuss, what are the points that you want to discuss. And as the point that Courtney mentioned about studying the audience is also very important. Look at the audience that you have. what are the kind of questions that you want to ask them, and maybe if they're silent, maybe ask some questions and get some people. And the point how I mentioned about case studies, and which Erica reinforced. So I think that's also a good way, and to encourage these discussions and to keep them going. And to share another point that Erica and Courtney mentioned, it might make sense to do a quick recap of what was covered in the workshop, because, and especially I think a watch party format, which Erica touched upon briefly, is to basically show if it's a short workshop, maybe show it first and then move on to the discussion. I think that will also really help conversation. So apart from this, did I miss something? Or are there any other tips that you all can offer to meetup organizers?
Yeah, Hadi, I'd like to reinforce that often we have a lesson plan that coincides with the videos. The lesson plan may have some more activities or may just be a good reinforcement for those that are leading that meetup or discussion to look over it, because the questions will be listed there. I believe that our quiz questions are also in sync together. So what you might see in the lesson plan version would be more of a document. And that document, for those that need the ability to present this information without use of the internet, because I know that even in my area, internet access is decent where I live, but if I go half an hour west, or if I'm in some maybe restaurant or other location for a meetup event, internet may not be the most reliable thing. And so there I could make use of the lesson plan, get that information taken offline, and still be able to run with things. So feel free to look over, even if you're doing the video version of things, feel free to look over the lesson plan equivalent. And that might also help guide you through being a facilitator and or having something to refer folks to after things have concluded.
Awesome. I think that was a missing tip that we had for meetup organizers, and I think I personally feel that would be very useful, because the lesson plan has all the information. So maybe if the discussion group leader goes through the lesson plan, like they already have an idea about the questions they need to ask, and that might actually help them prepare better as well. So excellent decision there. So tangentially, that brings me to the next question that I wanted to ask your folks, and my question is specifically to Howard and Courtney. So we spoke of lesson plans, and in the beginning we spoke of how lesson plans were what Learn WordPress started off with. So I know that Courtney touched upon this in when she spoke of. So how can meetup organizers benefit from these lesson plans that we have on Learn WordPress? And can you share some examples of how these lesson plans specifically can be helpful? Erica, you can also add something if you want to. So go ahead, the floor is yours. Any points, Courtney? Howard?
Our earliest lesson plans, we put through some rigorous testing for feedback. And so I think the meetup organizers that use those lesson plans early on to give us the feedback about the organization of the material and how the delivery went, because their feedback helped shape the content and the flow that we use for our lesson plans today. In addition to the idea, feel free to use them. A professional educator could look at this and say, oh, I understand. Here's my objective and here are my reinforcements. And a professional educator could use it in a classroom setting. But likewise, so could a substitute teacher. So could a meetup organizer. So could anybody holding any kind of discussion. Some folks have picked up our material and used it in programs like Girl Develop It and a few other type of similar organizations over the years. So it's just areas to maybe explore with using them.
Nice.
I also like the fact that you don't have to, I think Courtney touched on it, you don't have to be online. So you can print it out, because they are used in places where like you may not have internet access, or you can afford internet access, but you might be able to pull those offline and have a sit down with a real group and go through it and discuss it. So yeah, from that, I think anyone can benefit from it. So meetup organizers, you can take it and use it, because we all have that instance where the projector's not working or something goes wrong, and that's the benefit, that you can actually just like print it out and just use it on there without being live. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I think personally, one thing that I've again, Courtney spoke of it, but I think one thing that lesson plan would really benefit me as a meetup organizer would be, I could probably do a meetup based on lesson plan, right? And as Courtney mentioned, like that was used for testing, but now that we have a lot more lesson plans and a lot more are coming up, I mean, I'm pretty excited about all those lesson plans that are coming up. I'm not breaking the suspense. I'm not saying anything there. But so I might just go ahead and take a look at the lesson plan and organize a meetup based on that lesson plan. So I think that's also very obvious use of lesson plans. Did I get that right?
Yeah. And yeah, so take it, use it, test it, feedback, because we do have the feedback available on the site. So yeah, we would still encourage meetup organizers to go in and use the material. And like I said, even if you're not a meetup organizer, you just want to use the material, go in and use the material, see how it works for you. And if you have any feedback, then let us know, because that is part of contributing. Is by doing that, you're still contributing to WordPress, because you're actually making it better for others as well.
Nice. All right. So you mentioned about giving feedback to the lesson plan. Now, how do I give a feedback to a lesson plan? Can you quickly share that for us, please? This is for the audience.
So I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm completely wrong, because I should know this because I'm reviewing our handbook. But if you just go on to, if you go on to the actual lesson plan itself and use it, there is a link on there that just says provide feedback. And yes, I can see both Erica and Courtney nodding their heads, so I am right, because I'm sort of trying to figure where we've got everything at the moment. But yeah, if you go in there and then you can click on that and then obviously just submit your feedback through there. And with the link, oh goodness, let's go and have a look for it. So you come back to me while I go in. I should have had this prepared, shouldn't I?
No worries, no worries. By the way,
It's right. It's the link says "Let us know." The fine print on the right sidebar says if you've used this in an event and you have some suggestions. If you've used this in an event, even if you don't have suggestions, but you just want to tell us that you used it, that would be amazing. So click on the link that says "Let us know" on the right sidebar.
Excellent. Thanks, Woody.
Right. If anybody of you want to share your screen, I can probably put you up so that you can maybe show others. If you want to, or else it's fine. Would you? Okay. So just to make sure that we're all understand, there's a let us know link alongside each lesson plan. Make sure that you click on it and share the feedback to the training team. All right. So Erica, do you want to add anything to lesson plans, training team? Go on.
I don't think I have much to add. I think they covered everything. The one thing I might say that I really like about Learn as a resource for meetup groups too is I think, and hopefully I'm not jumping ahead on any questions you might have already been thinking of, but I think it's a great way too if you have people in your community who might be shy about speaking, but are that they have expertise with WordPress or they're familiar with WordPress and they're interested in developing their speaking skills. I think the resources that we have on Learn WordPress, that can be a great way to help empower someone to have something to get started that then they can present or even just lead the discussion group and kind of build their level of comfort with public speaking. I say that as someone who's very uncomfortable with public speaking. So I think that that's a really nice way to encourage different voices and different folks getting involved in that way too.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. All right. So now that we've been talking about giving feedback and all those things, I have a question for all three of you. So as we probably mentioned earlier on in this discussion, Learn WordPress is very much a collaborative effort, and there's the work of a lot of teams. So there's a training team which is taking point on this. There's a community team, there's a TV team, there's a meta team. So there's a marketing team, of course. So there's a lot of folks working together on this. I think the thing that most people probably, I don't know if they don't know, but just to make that point obvious, anybody can contribute to this initiative. Anybody who wants to can contribute to this initiative. So, and I think meetup groups or WordCamps or groups of people, I think that would be those sections would be. I mean, they can probably do a lot of good work in contributing to the project. So, my question is to all three of you, and it's an open question. So, let's say there's a meetup group or an organizer that's watching it, and the organizer wants their group to contribute to Learn WordPress initiative. So how can they contribute to this initiative? So do you have any thoughts on that? It could be individually, or it could be maybe they could organize a session or something like that. So go on.
Right, as the one who's been going through our training manual at the moment and reorganizing roles, there are so many ways that you could contribute. So on both, you could come in, take notes. We do need people to proofread, edit. If you're a subject matter expert and you understand a particular topic, come in and, let us know. There's the idea where you submit your idea. If you need help in actually drafting a lesson plan, we can help you with that. If you need help with doing the workshop, we can do that. And captioning, there's people there that can caption. Translation is another good one. I'm sure that Erica will touch on that a bit more, but there is translating. So I think there is almost, if you think about what it takes to deliver something, I am sure we can find a role for you in there. Okay. Because you don't have to be an expert in it. You don't even have to be an expert at WordPress. I mean, you can come in and actually say, you know what, I'll go through a lesson plan. It could be an existing one or a non-existing one, and I'll check for grammatical errors or, spelling mistakes, things like that. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of ways that you can contribute. But you can also visit Learn WordPress and either go onto the training. There is the Learn handbook that's Cami and Erica did a lot of work on. So that's on there. Explain some roles. But yeah, also on the training, we have got notes on there as well. There's different ways that you can contribute.
Seconding what Hawa said, we recently were able to coordinate with a person that instructs UX design, Tracy Apps, to get some UX feedback. We had a call for UX feedback out. And so we made a way to connect that would work for her style of contributing. So subject matter expert, she knows UX. We need UX work on Learn itself. And we made a way for us to gather that information that fit her learning styles as well. Also, areas like design, if you already have a good grasp on how to take screenshots effectively, that's something we definitely will need, especially this month while we're writing the guide on how to do it. Also, we have this area of our lesson plans to continue filling out regarding slides. And so we'll have a very particular way that we need the slides done so that people can have it fairly standardized and accessible in all of these various situations. But again, flipping the lesson plan material into a slide deck or getting featured images to be inside of the lesson plans, helping create the look of those featured images will be very helpful. So there are areas where you could jump in and say, I have just an hour and I'm willing to give my hour. What can I do? And then there are other areas that in an ongoing manner, you can continue to contribute with. Regarding subject matter experts, what I have loved doing in my previous work before teaching, I loved partnering up with developers that really knew their stuff, but needed to communicate that to their clients. So I work for a plugin company, and while there, devs tend to think about what other devs need to read. And I love that about them. But we also need to communicate to the end users and also to the people that are visiting our end users' websites and make sure that things are flowing throughout. So we could partner with somebody that is the subject matter expert and may say, I don't know how to turn that into a lesson plan, but here's the topic, and work through what that would look like, scoping it backwards to a lesson plan. And if they are interested in doing the video portion, awesome. And we can help scope what goes into the video portion. Or if they are not interested in doing the video portion, then we could get all of the information prepped up for somebody that would be willing to deliver that. So really, there's so many ways to come in, and we will do what we can to help get everybody into the right areas and the right amount of capacity.
Awesome. So do you want to add on to something on that? I mean, I'm specifically talking about how meetups and WordCamps can help the training team. And they've mentioned that there's a lot of ways that they can contribute. So do you have any more ideas on that?
Yeah, I'm also thinking of specifically for discussion groups and workshops too. We do have, if you have someone in your, if you have an event at a meetup group and you have someone who's interested in speaking or presenting, whether if they want to use apply and use one of the existing lesson plans, or if they have a particular topic that they're an expert in or they're particularly passionate about, there is an application form on the Learn WordPress site that they can apply for a video workshop. And there's a review process and where you can, share what you would like to do your workshop on and set that up through the Learn WordPress working group, which is joint community and training working group that's focused on Learn WordPress. And also, you can apply to be a discussion group leader as well. There is a vetting process to that that's somewhat similar to applying to run a meetup group. That's definitely another way to get involved. I think what both Courtney and Hawa said, though, about just reaching out, everything we organize for Learn WordPress happens in the Make WordPress Slack in the training channel. And I think even just joining there and saying hello or reaching out and sharing a little bit about what you're interested in, I think Learn is, I don't want to say it's in this format of Learn now is new to a certain degree, and I think the teams working on it and the folks working on it now are very open to iterating and figuring out like what the processes are now, what we want things to look like, how we want the onboarding experience to be for new contributors. And I think even just sharing, what you're interested in, there's a lot of folks in this community here that are very willing to kind of figure out what's the best way to get you involved. If, like Courtney said, if you want to do the video but don't want to write the script or don't feel comfortable writing the script, there's ways to piece that out. And I think that collaboration is also exactly what makes Learn so interesting. That people, we, like you said, we have a lot of different teams involved in Learn, and I think that makes it a really strong initiative. I think also the fact that the folks involved in Learn too are really willing, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words, but really willing to experiment and help each other with creating these things. I think that's also a really strong piece of what makes this such a great resource as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification, Erica. So I guess to summarize, if anybody wants to contribute to Learn WordPress, the link, which is learn.wordpress.org/contribute, gives a lot of information. But apart from that, the training team needs a lot of help in improving the Learn site and adding on to all the resources. So joining the training channel in the Make WordPress Slack would also be a great place. And there's a group of friendly folks, including the three amazing people in this call, apart from me. So they would, and there's a lot of other volunteers as well, and they can also help you out with basically sharing how you can contribute to the training team. And so Courtney or Hawa, can you share a link which essentially helps new contributors that want to contribute? I can probably share it here as well, so that new contributors can join us and can probably join and help you out. And I think it would also help meetup groups. So maybe they can organize sessions, something like contribution sessions where groups of people can work together to, I don't know, maybe work on a few lesson plans or test the slides plugin or something like that. So if you can share a link, I can maybe broadcast it here so for people to watch. Okay, so I have the link. I'm gonna highlight it here in this stream. So I'm gonna do that in a moment. Okay, so yeah, here's a link. So just go to the training P2 and there's a getting started link, which is a great resource for anybody who wants to contribute to the training team, who wants to, empower this platform called Learn WordPress. Okay, so we don't seem to have a lot of questions from the audience. So I have a couple of questions for all of you again, which is more of looking at the future. So I'm excited about how Learn WordPress was born, and we spoke a bit of the history and where it is today. So I'm going to ask a blue sky thinking question to all of you. And I know that there's literally a blue sky thinking post in the training P2, but I'd like to share some ideas here. So how does the Learn WordPress of 2023 look like? How would it look like? Or how would you want it to look like? And this is an open question again to all three of you. Anybody can answer.
I'll speak to my current need. No shame. So learn.wordpress.org, 2023. I love teaching at the boot camp where I am. I'm working with adults that are displaced at this time by COVID, and government funding is making it possible for them to participate in our program at no cost. That said, we are piecemealing all of our resources together in terms of the delivery. It's quality material, but I'm picking up a little bit from this place that has videos about all of the programming languages. I'm picking up a little bit from this place that has already created videos fully around developing a theme with underscores. I'm grabbing a few things off of Learn as well. I would like to just have it all inside of Learn and partner with employers to know their hiring needs and make sure that those materials, if we are democratizing WordPress, if that is the vision, if WordPress's mission is to democratize publishing, then Learn is the extension of that to democratize the training of that, right? So if we're democratizing the training of publishing, then what is needed in that scope and at what proficiency levels? I'm thinking specifically about how are the sequence and the training offered inside of Learn in a way that would distinguish it from any number of other places folks can go, accommodating for internet connectivity, for languages, for so many things. Having one singular resource that does encompass so much of what would be needed, and having that voice of the employers. I've seen employers very recently saying, I've got people applying for these junior dev WordPress front end type of positions, and they have no PHP, but they have all of these JavaScript frameworks to offer. We're learning JavaScript deeply, but so much of WordPress is still PHP. And so the training that goes with that, the skill level that goes with that, and what is the appropriate amount if somebody's seeking an employment position like that, what would the appropriate amount be? And having some of that on Learn then empowers organizations like where I work to turn to those that provide the funding and say, here's what they need. And if we're going to do this, here is our minimum criteria to help get them on the progress towards jobs. That's not to say that all jobs will ever be standardized for what they need, but having at least a benchmark to shoot for would sure help in the organization of the program where I currently am. So I would love to see all of that by 2023. I don't know if where we are with scoping, teaching all of the languages under the hood, but I would love to see that.
That is an excellent idea. And I really enjoyed the phrase that you said. I'm going to probably make that, in my mind at least, as the catchphrase for Learn, democratized training. That is definitely a buzzword. So Howard, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like, it's what Courtney said. I'd love it to be the go-to resource. But I'd want it to be the first one that you think about. So when you think, oh, I need to learn about WordPress, or I need to know something about WordPress, I'd want you to think, oh, learn WordPress, not, oh, let me Google YouTube or let me go to like LinkedIn or somewhere else. But it'd be like, oh, actually, just I can hit on Learn, and I know I'll get it all on Learn. And if I can't find it on Learn, then I'll go to other places. But I'd like, for you to hit Learn first, and then as many languages as possible.
Over to you, Erica. Any thoughts on how Learn is going to look in 2023? Go on.
Howard gave me a perfect segue, because the first thing that I have in mind is just, I would love to see content in as many languages as possible. I think that's, for me, that's always a large part of making it accessible to as many people as possible. I also, Courtney mentioned earlier, we've been talking about courses. And I think one thing that I would love to see by 2023, is exploring different ways for people to engage with the material, especially in terms of courses of like, does it make sense to have a cohort? Could we do some kind of sequential learning where you have the same group of people too that you're working with and building, like we talked about before as well, those personal connections when you're having a discussion group, if you're with the same group of people for say 6 weeks or something like that, what does that learning look like? And I think that could be a really interesting and helpful evolution of Learn as well, and is something personally is one of the main things that I'd like to see too.
Nice. I really like the idea of cohorts, and I want to ask a question to Courtney about, because I know that Courtney, you're already working on such cohorts. So if you look at Learn WordPress discussions, and if you try to add cohorts there, how do you think it will work? And do you have any ideas on how we can do this with existing workshops? Or and obviously we are talking about it in a place where we have more content, more lesson plans, and more complete material. So do you think the idea of having these cohorts would work with Learn?
I do think so. I think we need to review the material that we have first and make sure that we've got some courses that are a longer chunk of information, right? So in just 1 hour, I might be able to learn how to build a child theme if I already have a good understanding of everything else. That's a big if. Even in the training materials that I view, they assume that you're already skilled with CSS and PHP before we jump into child themes. So that's a big ask. But then if we need to build out, let's say we're building a block-based theme, and we want to have a course around creating the block-based theme, that's not a 1 hour topic, and we need to chunk that down. And so lining up deciding how long the live portion would be, what the commitment outside of class would look like. So if folks want to watch the material the night before or a couple hours before, and here's the amount of material that we should come in ready, having previewed, and then jump in with those questions would be really helpful to assess just what do we get out of that material. I think it's really exciting. I would love to see where this goes. I'll just say that. My students really, the first week together is awkward, especially since we're living in Zoom. These are folks that are unemployed under an initiative of getting back to work. That's how our funding comes through. And so they're in a 10-week program where they're learning all of this. And so it's pretty intense. Juggling that around if folks had a job at the time, trying to figure out what would be a manageable commitment would be some factors that we want to look at. The consistency of folks continuing to stay with it, because that continuity is going to improve the experience for everybody. So there's a lot of variables as we think towards that we would want to consider. But wow, is it really exciting, because having that ongoing group that you can learn from each other through, after you get over that initial awkward phase of how do I do this and connect with other people, and maybe your own struggles with, can I actually do the task? Can I actually learn the thing? Because people will get in their head maybe that I'm really good at regular in person and not online or whatever. Some of that's valid. Some of that is just your own preference, and some of that's your learning styles. So working with folks to help them overcome some of their own personal mental blocks, figuring out the amount of coursework, figuring out the commitment levels, all of those are things that I would really like to think through.
Nice. So going by all what you said, I'm pretty excited about the future of Learn. I mean, to have Learn as a benchmark for learning WordPress, and to have Learn at the place where it really, quoting Courtney, democratizes training. I mean, I'm pretty excited about it, and having it in different languages. Wow. So this is just a cue to all of you who are listening in to say that you can be a part of this. You can be a part of this. You can organize workshops. You can organize discussion groups. You can help create learning plans. You can help the training team make Learn better. And so there's a lot of ways that you can contribute to Learn. So I guess we have about a few more minutes, and I want to ask a last question before we wrap up. And I'm asking this because we've heard this question. I mean, as community deputies, people like I and Erika and all of the people working in the community team, we've heard that time and again. So I want to ask this question to all of you. So the question is, it's very simple. Will Learn WordPress replace WordPress meetups and WordPress and WordCamps and any other WordPress events? I'm going to start with you, Erika. What is your answer to that question?
No, no, I don't think it will. I think the way I see Learn, I guess I should back up. I think 2020 was a year where we did a lot of pivoting, and was also where this format of Learn as it lives now is kind of where that developed, because we didn't have in-person events where we could learn about WordPress and share our expertise within the community, just the different types and subject matters of expertise that we all have. The way that we typically do that looked really different in 2020. And I'm personally really excited, obviously, about how that has led to where we are with Learn WordPress at this point, and that being both a resource, but also an outlet for people to share what they do know. The way I see it in the future, I might twist the question back onto you, Hari, but I do think that Learn can supplement WordCamps and meetups too, if organizers are looking for something a little bit different. I think 2021, we don't know what it's going to look like for the rest of the year, and there's an opportunity to experiment as well. And where I want to turn the question on you a little bit, if you don't mind, is your experience. I know organizing WordCamp India, there was a lot of interplay between Learn WordPress and the WordCamp. And I think that kind of experimenting with different formats and using it also as a way to get people involved. I think there's, I really see it as a complementary relationship and not one replacing the other. I think they can both build one upon the other and make it better for folks learning.
Yeah. So thank you for mentioning WordCamp India and how WordCamps and meetups can be complementary to Learn WordPress. So I can definitely offer more context on that. So one of the initiatives that we tried with WordCamp India was to have basically contribute to Learn WordPress, because we were pretty excited about this initiative. When we announced WordCamp India, Learn WordPress was also in the works. I mean, Learn WordPress has been there for a while, but then workshops and things were announced, and we really wanted to contribute. So that's one thing that we tried, and I think meetups and WordCamps can definitely contribute to Learn WordPress. And one way to do this is by obviously doing workshops. So you could maybe have a workshop track and have some workshops, and have these workshops submitted to Learn, and have them there, have them live there. So for WordCamps, the advantage of a WordCamp is that several community organizers come together. So it's not just one person, it's not just two people, it's a group of people. It's a group of people from a community. Maybe if it's a regional WordCamp, people that speak a certain language, so they could all come together to organize specific sessions which are educational in format, which meet the Learn standards. And then these workshops could live directly in Learn. So anybody that goes to Learn, they can watch these workshops, they can learn. So I think, and this applies to meetups as well. So meetup organizers, so going by what Courtney, so as Courtney and Howard mentioned, so there's a lot of lesson plans in Learn. So any meetup organizer could, in theory, go to Learn, take a lesson plan that they like, organize a workshop, an online workshop as a meetup event, record it, and then maybe even submit to Learn. So that's also a great way to contribute back to the Learn WordPress initiative. So yeah, there's a lot of as you mentioned, as you very rightly mentioned, I must add, both of these are complementary. Like, Learn is never replacing WordCamps and meetups. All right. So any final thoughts on this relationship between WordPress events and Learn? Howard and Courtney, any thoughts?
If a meetup organizer or anyone really sees that there's a gap of content, let's say that the topic of a meetup might be that they're learning about custom taxonomy and custom post types, and they need a set amount of prerequisite knowledge. They need to know some specific things before they get to that point. If there's a gap in the prerequisite information, certainly submit that on to us, because that does make sense in terms of, before we can create our custom post types and custom taxonomy, we might need to know how that would output eventually to a theme and how we can display that information. And so any chunks of things along the way that you think, oh, they should know this before we get to that, submit that to us, please. As I've been building the program where I instruct, that foundational approach of figuring out this, then this has been really important, especially thinking through the programming languages under WordPress and how we need to sequence all of these things towards building out a theme. So yeah, share your ideas, and the more languages, both human and programming, that we could get involved on Learn, I want that.
Yeah, I like that phrasing. So how any thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I think I don't want to see it just be Learn, and I don't think anybody does, because I miss our face-to-face meetups and stuff. So, but I do think it complements it, and I think it's also an alternative way, because maybe you are that sort of person that just doesn't want to turn up to a meetup or a WordCamp. So you can just go to an online discussion group. So I can see them both working together, and I can see people using Learn a lot more at meetups and WordCamps. Because at WordCamp on Contributor Day, like we had with the training, we did have some people come in and say, actually, I want to do a lesson plan, or what in that lesson plan is missing. Is it screenshots? Is it slides? What is, help? They were also helping us test the slides plugin. So I can see them working together, and I'm quite excited about how it will work, and excited for when we can meet again face to face.
Yeah, so you summed up my emotions very well. How even I am excited about us meeting face to face, and I'm even more excited about how we can put Learn to use in person meetups whenever they are back. So I guess we are running out of time, but thank you so much, Courtney, Erica, and Howard, for this amazing discussion. I loved everything that you shared. I mean, so to everybody that's listening in, I hope this session, this Tuesday training, this live session, gave you a lot of ideas on how you can use Learn WordPress for your meetup groups. To give a very high-level summarization, I think one thing you can do is you can organize discussion groups, but it's not just that. So you can organize discussion groups based on workshops, but it's not just that. You can actually contribute to workshops. You can actually contribute to lesson plans. You can use lesson plans to organize meetups. You can do a lot of things. You can even contribute, organizations to contribute even individually or as a team to the training team. So there's a lot of things that you can do with Learn WordPress. And to summarize, I'm going to share the how to contribute link. So if you want to contribute to the Learn WordPress project, either as an individual or as a team, please visit the link learn.wordpress.org/contribute. I've shared the link in the video. So thank you so much once again, everybody. And I'll see you online soon. By the way, Tuesday trainings will be back next Tuesday with another amazing topic. And I'll see you all online soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye.